Good evening. Welcome to Heritage Stories and Performing Arts. I'm Sarita Nair and thank you all for joining us this evening. यहाँ आप सुनेंगे कुछ अनसुनी अनकही कहानियां from इतिहास के पन्नों से. I hope you have seen the earlier 3 episodes. We have received some amazing feedback and thank you all for watching it. In case you have missed it, let me tell you a little bit about these episodes. Episode 1 was the story of Azizun Bai from Kanpur, and it was narrated beautifully by none other than Pied Piper Sonia. Our episode 2 had Akshay Gandhi take you all the way to Rajasthan and share about the tribal community, the stories of Rajasthan Marwari Community Library and the tribal community. Episode 3 was the story of Abaka, the queen, the fearless queen of Ulal, Karnataka, shared by none other than Hema Subramanian. And today, you are here to watch our episode 4 of Itihaas Ke Pannon Se. So thank you all for joining in on this wonderful evening for this exciting, amazing story. So we had a quiz where we asked you that where do you think the story originates from? And we gave you 2 clues. Let me tell you about that. The story is from the land of temples, the land of beautiful architecture, the land of Gopurams, the land of the ancient language Tamil. Yes, the story is from Tamil Nadu. And who is the story about? Well, this amazing, inspiring woman, according to some researchers, is responsible for inspiring the October March of the French Revolution all the way in France. Can you imagine? This woman, an Indian woman in the 18th century, inspiring women in France to revolt. Do you want to know who she is? Well, let's find out. From our storyteller for today, Lavanya Prasad. So let me tell you a little bit about Lavanya. Lavanya is an electrical engineer turned professional storyteller. She's very happy that she makes better and long-lasting connections through stories rather than electrical wires. Lavanya's story journey in the last 10 years has given her the opportunity to work with adults, senior citizens, teenagers, and young children, helping them connect to themselves and the things around them through stories. Telescope, her storytelling organization, has also been involved in the grassroots level training sessions for teachers and parents in both India and abroad. And so, without further ado, I would like to invite Lavanya Prasad. Welcome, Lavanya, to Itihaas Ke Pannon Se.
Thank you so much, Sarita. So excited to be here today, to be sharing this wonderful story.
Thank you so much. And I can see that you're really in the characters. Wonderful. So without letting our audience wait anymore, I think I'll just put off my video and hand it over to you for this amazing story. Enjoy, everyone.
412 years and 4 days before today. The year was 1608 and August 24th. That was the day when the Britishers set their foot for the first time in India. Mesmerized they were to look at the beauty and the wealth of the country, and they could not go back without the thought of coming back and making India their own. 100 years later, all this, the dreams of the British, started to happen. King Vijaya Ranga Chokkanatha Nayakar, the ruler of the Thunga Nagaram, Madurai, where Tamil flourished, was having sleepless nights. The 72 palayams, or the sub-kingdoms, the unusual harmony that existed between the 72 sub-kingdoms of his was no more. The Britishers had played really well, targeting the unity, creating distances, and hence the discrepancy. Well, it was not very easy or difficult for them, I should say, with the help of Arcot Nawab to take over Madurai. And they even managed to schemingly kill the king. This was in the year 1730. In the same year, 100 kilometers from the city of Madurai was the Ramanathapuram district. And there, the king Chellamuthu Sedupati and the queen Muttammal Nachiyar had given birth to a beautiful baby girl. கேட்டியாளா செய்திய? நம்ம செல்லமுத்து ஐயாவுக்கும் நாச்சி அம்மாக்கும் பொட்ட பிள்ளை பிறந்திருக்காமல்ல? ஐயோ பாவம். அத்தாச்சி, பொட்ட புள்ள அது இதுன்னு என்ன பேசுறீங்க? எங்க இளவரசி யாருன்னு தெரியுமில்ல? கத்தி குத்து சண்டை, வீரச்சண்டை, யானை ஏத்தம், குதிரை ஏத்தம், வீச்சருவா எல்லாத்துலயும் பிரமாதப்படுத்தி புடுவாகல எங்க வேலு நாச்சியா. Velu Nachiyar was her name. The princess of Ramanathapuram, who was trained in the warfare just like any other prince would be. When she was just 16 years old, her hand was given in marriage to the king of Shivagangai Chimai, Muttuvadganadhar. And she became not only the queen to the land, but also an elder daughter to most of the families in Ramanathapuram. She was so well versed in the political affairs that the king would not make a political decision without consulting with the queen. Such was her fame. The king and the queen ruled Shivagangai Chimai so well with the support of Marudu brothers, Periya Marudu and Chinna Marudu, who were like pillars of support to them. Shivagangai Chimai flourished. Well, the Britishers did not fail to sniff the fragrance of the richness in the land. And promptly they sent Colonel Bonjo, who came in and threatened the king and the queen with his British English. We have taken the complete rights over your land from Arcot Nawab. If you would wish to continue to rule this land of yours, you better pay all the taxes that you failed to pay all these years and continue paying the taxes further too. Do you get it? The king and the queen, what was he said? King Muttuvadganadhar stood there, not understanding a single word of what Colonel Bonjo had just said. But then out came Velu Nachiyar. She looked at Colonel Bonjo and she said, "Mind your words, Mr. Bonjo. Sushichi samsarikanam. Matladenu ante alosichi matladi. Zaman samalke. English is just a language. Gyan nahi. Yahan jeene ke liye आपको हमारे भाषा को सीखना बहुत जरूरी है. முதலில் தமிழில் பேச கற்றுக்கொண்டு பிறகு இங்கு வாருங்கள்." She knew 7 languages. கோவிலை கட்டி, கோபுரம் கட்டி, சத்திரம் கட்டி, சாவடி கட்டி வாழ்ந்த குலவடா எங்கள் தமிழர் குலம். வரி வேண்டுமாம், வரி. முதலில் அதை நீ புரிந்து கொள் நாடோடி பரங்கியே. உழைக்கும் கரங்கள் எமது, சிந்தும் வியர்வை எமது, பாயும் நதிகள் எமது, ஓடும் வாய்க்காலும் எமது. கப்பம் வேண்டுமாம் கப்பம், கப்பம் வேண்டுமாம் கப்பம், ஒரு அப்பமும் கிடையாது. வரி கேட்குதோ வரி, உனக்கு முகவரி இங்கேது. You came in as a trader. Do not get greedy and don't get into the limits of India. She warned him. And there Colonel Bonjo stood spellbound, looking at the queen, who he knew was more fierce, more powerful than most other kings that he had seen in India. And the Britishers did not waste even a single minute after that. They very schemingly killed King Muttuvadganadhar when he was praying in the temple. Well, their calculation was a little different. They thought when the king died, Velu Nachiyar, like any other woman of that time, would jump into the funeral pyre and give away her life. They were more scared than Velu Nachiyar than the king, because she was capable of taking 1,000 lives with that kalari. But Velu Nachiyar stood there in front of her husband's corpse. She looked at him and made an oath. ஒரு வைரத்தாலியை என் கழுத்தில் பூட்டிய முத்துவடுக நாதனே, உங்கள் மீது ஆணை, இந்த தாய் மண்ணை இவர்களிடமிருந்து நான் மீட்டெடுப்பேன். I will save my land from these Britishers, was her oath. And there, along with her 10-year-old daughter, she escaped out of her land upon the advice of the Marudu brothers, but with a very heavy heart. She knew that if she had to come back, then she had to be unbeatable. Her war strategy will have to be such that she will have to sweep the Britishers away of their feet. A queen, along with her daughter, on the run. Do you think that the Britishers would stop? No. They had spies everywhere. They were doing all that they can to catch that queen alive. She was not able to stay in a place for more than a few weeks. She was always on the run, waiting to find that moment to save her people. It was on one such time when she was really tired of running away from the British. She was lying on the floor of a forest, panting for thirst and hungry and crying out for help. Help did come in the form of a shepherdess. Her name was Udayal. Udayal came in, gave water, saved the queen, and made her escape. And when the Britishers came in and questioned her about the whereabouts of the queen, she refused to open her mouth. They cut her limbs, they cut her legs, they even chopped her head. That was the first true sacrifice in the Shivagangai Chimai war. Well, when Velu Nachiyar came to know of this sacrifice, her heart bled. But it was this incident that made her do something that nobody else had thought of before. If one shepherdess woman in my land has such courage, then how much will all the women clubbed together will have? She decided to form a woman army. She was still in touch with her land. So without the Britishers knowing, in the next 8 years, Velu Nachiyar called in the women from her land to the place that she was in secretly and formed a big padai army of 5,000 women, and she trained them in the warfare. She named this army Udayal Padai after the Udayal, the shepherdess who gave her life to save the queen and the land. Looking at this, all the other sub-kingdoms were mesmerized and they offered help. But the greatest help came through Hyder Ali, who was the king of Mysore. Well, he promised to give Velu Nachiyar 12 Birangis, 500 rifles, and 5,000 foot soldiers. He called her his sister. Udayal, with the Udayal Padai, Velu Nachiyar requested Hyder Ali to declare the Anglo-Mysore War too, so that she could turn the eyes of the British to the Mysore War. And when Hyder Ali did that, she knew that it was the right time to march to her land. With the Marudu brothers, Periya Marudu and Chinna Marudu by her side, they decided to attack the land from the three sides. From the left will attack Periya Marudu, from the right will attack Chinna Marudu, and she decided to go in the center to Shivagangai with her Udayal Padai, the 5,000 women that she had trained. But it was not very easy to get into Shivagangai because it was the time of Navratri. And since the Anglo-Mysore War was already happening, half of the British soldiers had gone there. And so all the other British soldiers were very alert, especially not to let anybody near the Rajarajeshwari temple during the time of Navratri. You know why? Because that is where, just right beside the temple, was the weapon repository of the Britishers. They had stored all their weapons there, and they didn't want any spies from the land to come and know that. Well, but as was the custom, the women of the land demanded that they will have to go and light lamps on the day of Saraswati Puja in the Rajarajeshwari temple. And so they had to oblige. They said, all right, we will let only the women go. They can come in and light lamps. Well, it came as a blessing to Velu Nachiyar. Now, I will have to tell you something else here. In the Udayal Padai that she had made, there was one young woman who was just 18 years old and who had stolen the heart of the queen. And she was made the commander-in-chief of the Udayal Padai army. Her name was Kuili. Kuili was somebody who was ready to sacrifice her life for the queen and for her land. And so when the Britishers announced that the women can get in and light lamps on the day of Saraswati Puja, she marched, Velu Nachiyar, along with all the Udayal Padai that she had, decked up in nice sari, but hiding knives and swords inside them. They marched towards the temple. The British soldiers were standing there and watching all the women light the lamps from all the stairs that led to the temple. But what they failed to notice was there was one young woman who was taking the lamp and pouring the oil on top of her. They failed to notice this. And she was quietly walking towards the backside of the temple. And when all the women had gathered inside the temple, Velu Nachiyar found the right time and she gave out a cry, "Vetrivel, Veeravel!" And all the women took out the sword and the knife from their sari and started slashing the Britishers. Nobody expected this. This was a surprise attack, and women, of all people, women attacking the Britishers. Before they could get their energy, somebody ran to Colonel Bonjo and told him what was happening. Colonel Bonjo immediately ordered all the people to get into the weapon repository, grab the rifle and shoot all these women until they were dead. But it was a tad late. Before they could reach there, they heard this loud blast, a blast that shook almost 100 kilometers, that was heard almost 100 kilometers surrounding Shivagangai. Kuili, the 18-year-old young woman, smeared herself completely with the oil from the lamp, walked into the weapon repository, lit herself up, and fell into the gunpowder that was heaped there. She destroyed the British repository, weapon repository, in just a second. Most people believe that it was only during the Second World War that the suicide squads came into being. But this was the first that nobody knows. It was not very difficult for Velu Nachiyar and her Udayal Padai to fight the Britishers and win over them on the Vijayadasami day. The victory of good over evil happened again in history. And she stood there as all the other people were rejoicing over the victory. The queen, Velu Nachiyar, she stood there, tears in her eyes, paying respect to the two women without whose sacrifice this victory could not have been possible. Even today, if you go to Shivagangai, you will see this Vettudayal Kaliamman Kovil, a temple that she built for the shepherdess who gave her life. And today, she stands there as Kali, Amman, Durga. People still go and worship her. And there is a beautiful memorial for Kuili as well. My dear friends, you all know the story of Jhansi Ki Rani. Well, it was very much popularized by the Britishers themselves, along with her defeat. But not many knew of this queen, Velu Nachiyar, who was the first queen to fight against the British and win her land back. Well, she ruled her land from 1780 to 1789, 9 years. And after that, she crowned her daughter the queen of the land, and she left to France to get a treatment for her ailment, her heart ailment. Did she come back? Yes, of course she did. She came back to her own land. And in the year 1796, on the 25th of December, when she was 66 years old, the queen died in her land. When I was looking for this story, and as I was reading this story, one thing came to my mind. I love Mahakavi Bharatiyar and all his poem about women. For some reason, I thought Mahakavi Bharatiyar wrote his famous lines with Velu Nachiyar in his mind. Narai koodi kizhap paruvam eidi, pala vedikkai manidargalai pole naan veelven endru ninaithayo. Did you think that I would fall? That was Velu Nachiyar. Thank you so much.
Wow. Lavanya, thank you so much for that inspiring story. And it was told so beautifully. It was a beautiful story and brought so well. And I'd like to invite all the other storytellers who are here. And those 7 languages, I mean, did you really like learn those 7 languages so that?
Just one
Wow.
word. I mean, she was an expert in all the languages, is what I read.
Amazing. I'm so in this. What do you have to say, everyone? Isn't it leaving us speechless?
My God.
Inspiring journey of an inspiring woman and told so beautifully.
I'm still in that line where she gave that threatening to the colonel or that Britisher. How dare you come here? Or you said it in your language, but I think the emotion was wow. And then the oath. I mean, when she took the oath, so very nice. Yeah. Beautiful. And thank you so much for bringing in that point of Jhansi Ki Rani, because I think we all love Lakshmi Bai. We all go by her valor and courage and all. But you're right that yes, it's a very overrated story, and when it comes to women valor and courage, our children only know about Lakshmi Bai. But I'm going to make sure that we take forward these stories. So thank you so much, Lavanya, for bringing in this such powerful story and rendition.
My pleasure, Sonia. Thank you.
Wonderful. And there are so many situations in her life where she's inspired and done such wonderful things. And tell us something about her husband also, because I'm very curious to know what as a king and his wife taking lead. How did he react? How was his response?
Well, King Muthuvaduganather was somebody, when I read up, I found that, he always had Velu Nachiyar to address any issue. In fact, the day when the king was killed, the colonel had actually approached to tell the people that they are going to have, a peace talk with the queen and the king. But the king just decided, since I'm going to the temple, let the colonel come and talk to the queen. I'm so sure that she'll be handling this better than me. And that is how he goes to the temple. But the colonel comes to know of this and he sends his people there, holding the queen here in the place, because he knew that if the queen was going to be with the king, they cannot do anything to him. So he was holding the queen in the kingdom while the king was killed. Well, I think he was a person who completely, embraced what Velu Nachiyar was and gave her everything that a woman of her valor and courage will have to be given. Something beautiful.
Wow. And one of the few things that stand out for me is that the kind of support she had. You mentioned to brothers
Right.
who are her friends. You mentioned about these amazing women she met who, so all these people, it's so wonderful to see people come together for something. So can you tell us a little bit more about, what you found about her relationship with these important people in her life.
Yes. So these Marudu brothers are Periya Marudu and Chinna Marudu, who were a big pillar of support to King Muthu. So when she comes in as a queen, she just takes her heart. She just inspires them with her courage and valor, that they immediately stand up for the queen and they say that we are there for you, despite our king is missing. So that is the relationship that she had with the Marudu brothers. And of course, her people, she was like an elder daughter, like I said. So they did not want to say no to the queen because they knew that the queen would be able to give anything. And the best thing was when she met Hyder Ali. So she comes to know of Hyder Ali, and she comes to know that he is situated, he has placed his thing in Dindakal fort, which was Hyder Ali's fort. And she wanted to meet him. So she takes the horse and she dresses herself up as a man, and she climbs up the fort. And it's not an easy climb. So Hyder Ali watches, who's this young lad coming to me in a horse, such beautifully. And she comes there, she gets down and she talks to him in Urdu. So
Wow.
she says, so she says, I don't know what that is, but she says that I'm here. I'm sure you must be knowing who I am. I'm Rani Velu Nachiyar. I'm here to ask you for a help. I want you to help me because win this situation. And I know that you know who I am. And he says, yes, I heard about your husband's death. And the moment he says, she calls him Bhaiya. And the moment that comes out, he says, I accept you as my sister, and I will give you all the support that I can. So not many people know that the Anglo-Mysore War actually happened because Velu Nachiyar had requested Hyder Ali to have it at the same time to divert the British from having the complete attention on her. Not many people know that. So all these are facts that amaze me to see how these collaborations happen and how people were helping each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the women, they were head over heels in love with the queen. That's all I know.
5,000 women army, my God. I mean, the kind of, the inspiration that she would have been for women to go up there. And, the two names that you mentioned, Udayal, I pronounced
Odayal and Kuili.
Queely.
And it was not easy for all the women to just leave the country without the knowledge of the British. Over 8 years, some left as if they are going to another land. Others disappeared mysteriously. Others were told, the Britishers were told that they died of an ailment. This is how the women went. Whoever wanted to join the army, they made up an excuse in such a way that the Britishers don't spy and find out. And they had gone there and got all these things done. So in the whole area where she had been, going around, you could see forts that are there even today. In between the forest, there are forts where all these practices of, giving
Training happened.
Training happened. So
Wow.
all that is still there, yeah.
And the moment of goosebumps for me was at the temple when they are putting the oil and such a. Yeah, it was really mind-blowing, that entire
It's a beautiful story. I mean, something
wonderful.
that needs to be told out.
Yeah. So, Vrushali and Karuna, would you like to say something? I mean, yeah, please feel free to ask, talk.
Really, you going into that Tamil and that powerful song, that Kuppam and all that, it was like, as I'm really seeing some play of that Rani, and all the sacrifice of, Udayal and Kuili. Oh my God, I just could visualize the whole scene. It was such a beautifully narrated story. It was like goosebumps at every moment. It was so wonderful, Lavanya. I just don't have words to express.
Thank you.
Very wonderful.
It's a story, Karuna.
I know the
girl
story.
is
I agree. The story, the valor, and all that. And Sarita, kudos to you, because before coming on HSPA, I really didn't know about Ubakka. I didn't know about this. I didn't know about that girl from Lucknow. Sorry, I forgot her name. Azizun Bai. Yeah. So all these stories, I mean, that unsung heroes and heroines of our history is like giving more pride and courage. Our textbooks have very limited stories of valor and courage and all that. Imagine here now, it's like social media, Facebook, and 5,000 and 5 lakhs of those days, no communication, nothing, village to village. And people had such fascination and hero worship for her that she could gather 5,000. This really amazing story. It is.
And
I
these are the kind of stories that our children should hear, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely.
women.
See
I
the
was hearing on Zoom, and my girl took up the live Facebook, and she's just now I saw that she put a cartoon picture there on my behalf on my account. She's watching live on Facebook.
I hope the story, all these stories reach many more people. And thank you for joining in, Rajshri, Vrishali, and Shri, for all your support. Yes, Lavanya,
yeah,
Rajshri.
I just wanted to mention about the French Revolution part.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where she
yeah.
went and inspired. Yes, please tell us about it.
So this actually is you don't get many citations of this everywhere, but there is this one particular researcher who has done a very extensive research on Velu Nachiyar. His name is Sriram Sharma. So he has even done a dance drama. He's even done a dance drama on Velu Nachiyar. So in one of the documentaries that I heard about, he talking about Velu Nachiyar, he mentions that it was in the same year that she had gone to France to get her art done. I think it was in the year 1789. That is when the French Revolution happened too. But the Britishers were defeated by a woman with 5,000 women army. I think it just was a moment in history that even the Britishers were shocked. And I'm sure that this would have reached many places. And Sriram Sharma, he feels for sure it is this woman who had inspired the French Revolution, the October March of the French Revolution, which took place, where 7,000 women gathered together and did this. And when that happened, Rani Velu Nachiyar was in France. So that was a goosebump moment for me, and I'm like, wow, can this happen? So that was a beautiful moment for me.
Absolutely. And to think that she has had so many historical events associated to her. Even she's gone for a treatment, and there also she's done something. She's, lost her husband, and so there's so many, I'm just still shocked. I wish I could time travel back and go and just meet all these women. I mean, wow.
Totally. My daughters were like, Ma, you've told us many stories, but Velu Nachiyar I've been practicing at home for the last 3-4 days. And my daughter just tells me, Amma, you're missing this line. And she'll tell me, you'll have to put your hand out like this.
Wow.
So that is what is, and she says, children are inspired. These stories
Yes.
will have to go out. So
It will
thanks
have
to
to
you,
go out.
Sarita, for bringing this, because we are hearing stories of such amazing women. And I think it's so wonderful that you in HSPA is doing this beautiful thing. I'm truly grateful.
I'm humbled that you all have come and you have all, said the stories of these unsung heroes, and you believe in the cause. And for me, that is really humbling, and I'm very grateful for that. And if we all can make that difference, I mean, I think that's our job is done to our children and to whoever else is. I hope this reaches out. This is a beautiful story, and I think I would just like to thank all the viewers who have come in to hear the story today. And I'm sure you've had a wonderful time. Please put in the comments what you think. We'll definitely reply to you. And so we'll take your leave from Facebook Live. Keep watching Itihaas Ke Pannon Se. Watch all our episodes and the future episodes coming in. We have on the 4th of September, another storyteller coming to you with another story. And do keep yourself tuned to what's happening on the HSPA page. Thank you.